Hi, this is TJ with the producer team for Tampa Film Network, and I'm going to be doing a quick review of one of the new edits by Patrick. Thanks so much for joining me. Let me first go to Discord. Where's my tab? I got so many down here. Okay, so first of all, looking in Discord, just a couple updates real quick. We actually recently on the side panel, we created these categories so that each team can have more than just one channel, just serving for different purposes. So first of all, everyone has like the lobby channel. But it's in the category of everyone. So also in the category of everyone is the events channel and the help questions channel where you can ask whatever questions you want, and one of the admin team will respond as soon as they can. And then this everyone also has a couple talk channels as well. Don't pay attention to these. These will only appear for you if you are involved with a shoot. It's always going to show for me. But it lets you drop down. Now, the editing team also has its own little category here. So there's the text channel that that you guys have been using all the way up until this point. But there's also a talk channel, so you can connect and you can actually be in a phone conference or a video conference. And the great thing about this is you can also stream through the video conference your screen. So that's really cool. So we can disconnect from that. But let us know if you need any more channels serving for different purposes, because this has kind of been serving. The first channel has just been serving as kind of like the announcements, organizing projects channel, and we have the talk channel here. But if you need another channel, for example, for like, I don't know, experiment, or I don't know what you might need one for, like maybe a channel just for going back and forth about different edits or so, or like an experimental channel, a channel where you share resources or things, just let us know and we can look at adding it under the tab here. But let me go ahead and see if I can make this one a short review. Let's go to Tampa Film Network, editing team, Editors Exchange, and of course Patrick has his own folder where he just drops things in and we can just immediately see it. Now, I did see a bunch of emails recently to the TFN email. I don't think that was sent directly to me, Patrick, but it looks like you were trying to share a new folder, so I wasn't sure if that's what you're trying to do. This one's been working pretty well, so I mean, you don't have to separate the folders. Just make sure that every file that you create is labeled. Let me see if I can find Good Friends. Yeah, Good Friends in here. So I'm going to be reviewing the Good Friends 1.0, and what Patrick was doing was a color correction / grading. So I'm going to be looking at his color work and just giving some feedback on that. Now, this project, I'm actually more personally involved in myself as the principal editor. So I may have a little bit more to say creatively speaking about this project in certain aspects, more so than I normally would, as I prefer to just kind of be the check on quality sake and formulaic sake, focusing on those things as opposed to, trying to impose my own creative thing. But this project is so complex. I wasn't able to. It's not a project that I could just hand off for just the editing of the clips and things, because all the files are in certain folders. It was kind of done right before TFN really got going with its organized way of doing things, and I was there since the beginning, so I kind of understand how it all works. So it kind of is on me to make sure it reaches the finish line. But one thing that anyone could help with was the coloring. So let's look at that. And let me see if I can get the original to compare it next to as far as the coloring. Yeah, it's on the outside here. Everyone can get the folder that has everything in it simply by going to Discord. In the channel description, you can see one of the Resilio sync keys here. Here it is, the Editors Exchange folder. That's what you need there. You just take this key and you plug it into your Resilio sync, and it will start syncing the folder. Okay, so we're going to compare that to the original here. Let me see if I can add. The list. Okay, so this one's by Patrick. This one's the original. So first, let's go ahead and okay. So this is a short film. It's basically the story is about two best friends. One is basically got involved in a drug deal, and he needed his best friend's help to get him out of it. And it's the story of how he kind of dragged her into the whole transaction and them trying to get themselves out of trouble. This is the main premise of the film. So looking here, I'm actually going to look at the original first. So the original is not color corrected really, and it's not color graded at all. It's kind of just shot on a flat video profile, which is better for editing. It gives us more latitude for color and adjustments and things. And so the two things that have to be done are color correction and color grading. Those are not the same thing. Now, from an overall perspective for this film, I think that what we talked about early on and what is the best approach is to be conservative with the style, or in other words, color grading aspect, and just make sure that we really do a good job with color correction. Color correction is more about making sure that all the clips are matching. They're matching as far as, you know, one clip's lows or shadows is about on par or the same as another clip's shadows, and also one clip's tones of colors is the same as another clip's tones of colors. It's about consistency and not having differences of clips. So if I go to another clip, the wall won't change to a different shade of green, for example. And also it's about finding what is the best settings, because as you can see here, now it looks like we're dealing with a completely different look as far as the color space and the lighting. So we're doing a lot of correcting in color correction, and that has a lot to do with just making sure all the clips match, and also finding the best levels to set everything, which is going to do the film the most justice. Sometimes a film looks better when it's adjusted brightly. Sometimes a film works better when it's set to look more dark, you know, to just match the tone of things. Okay, so far, we do see that there are some differences. Oh, I'm not sure if the video is lagging or not. It kind of seems or feels like it is, because I can't touch. Yeah, something's going on. So I'm going to see if I can use a different player. Let me see if I can close this. Sorry for the delay. And if it's skipping, you know, just allow me the latitude to try and catch things up. Let me close my other stuff open that I have open right now. Save a little RAM. I should be fine on RAM. I've got it's got 16 gigabytes of memory on my computer, an i7 processor, you know, and a good graphics card, an NVIDIA 1050 low profile. So everything is usually runs pretty smoothly. All right, so now I'm going to try and open with, is what I want to do. I usually prefer Windows Media Player because it lets you play it right in the window. I would think that Windows has an easier time playing those than other things, but I guess not all the time. All right, let's play it with this one. I'll turn the volume down so I can kind of talk. By the way, tell me how you guys like the choice of music. That was my touch there. I felt like there should be kind of like this classical serenity thing, and it kind of works with her character in this film. The dynamic between the two characters is that she's the one who's very stable, got her life organized, has things just all working together for her, kind of like in a symphony. And her best friend Felix, her name is Johanna Hartman, and her best friend's name is Felix Marshall, and he's more of a kind of zany, character who's always getting himself into trouble and he's always got some kind of scheme going or whatever, and he's always dragging his best friend in with him into his madness. Let's see here. So I have seen a difference in the lighting and a little bit of the color space between these shots. These are the over-the-shoulder close-ups. And this shot here, this medium shot here. The lighting is better here. I'm seeing a lot more. It's not leaning. It doesn't seem, I don't have the best monitor, but it doesn't seem to be leaning in any sort of direction as far as the tint. Although if I had to choose, maybe it's leaning a little bit more yellow than magenta or whatever that the name of that color is. But it's not far off from these. So the process of correcting this shot with these shots here shouldn't be that difficult. These shots are coming through a little bit more warmer. So I would say tend towards, if you're wondering, okay, well, do I adjust towards this or do I adjust towards that? I would say for now, see if you can get it more towards this. Okay, it's just going to make it a little bit easier when we go into to grade to decide whether we're going to go warmer or cooler. This one is cooler. See if you can lean towards this here, because I think that out of the two different clips, this one is kind of lit the best. If you have trouble getting here, or if you have trouble getting these clips towards this clip, then go the opposite direction. Try to get this clip towards these clips in terms of warmness and the color tone and the levels. Okay, but whatever is easiest to do that. And do that without taking it in a creative color direction. That would be grading. There's two parts to this. There's color correction and then there's color grading. We need to focus only on the correction right now. Grading is taking a step too far. You don't want to grade until all your clips are at least baseline consistent and look totally on at the same level with each other. Okay, now let's look at the color choice so far of Patrick. I wonder if I can, nope, it's gonna only play in the folder. Let me see if I can, is this gonna sit on top? There we go. Let me get Patrick's edit up. Okay, so you've enabled, so just for consistency, now you've gone with the 1.0, so you're in the ones. So what if you do a correction on this, or you do a next version, it should be 1.1, and then 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and so on and so forth. You want to stay in the ones as far as you can before there is a major shift in the direction of what you're doing to where it has to be considered a completely new version, because 1.1 is an updated version of 1.0. So stay with the ones and then just change that second number and have that number counting up. Okay, let's go. Let's open. Let's do the open with thing. Let me see if I can go back and forth. Nope, I can't go back and forth. Okay, so now immediately I can see that we're looking at some warm color grading here. Okay, This is, I would say this is too much. We should not be grading. Taking it in a warm direction like this is making a color creative choice, and that's going beyond color correction. In other words, making sure all the clips match with each other at a baseline, and that's taking it a step further and saying, okay, we're going to now take these in a warm direction. I think it's too premature to do that just yet. Now on my screen here, the skin tone is looking very, very weird and yellow. So this, if it's showing yellow on your screen here too, then this is not going to work. I don't think that's that color on her face is going to work when it comes time to grade. So let's go, first of all, take this a step back to color correction. And what we're looking for when we color correct in this particular opening shot is, are our shadows where they need to be? The darkest parts of the frame, are we getting all the detail that we need to get out of the most important parts? So the most important parts of this frame would be, as far as the darkness, would be the keys. It's okay that we can't really see what's here because we get the idea that this is a cup or a mug. And here is kind of important because we can see who our character is for the first time right around here. So we kind of want to make sure that this is sharp enough so that we can see this. But other than that, not too much should be going on in that frame. Let me see here. Now, and then also the purpose of shooting from this angle and opening on this angle is to kind of obscure and bring us slowly into seeing who the character is. We don't show it quite immediately. We in other words, allude to who this is. We kind of get a feeling for what she does first, right? We're basically defining who the character is first by what they're doing. So she's hard at work, drinking coffee, typing on her computer, okay? And then we see her face, right? We see it on the computer screen. In other words, we're defining her through her work. And then we finally see her face. So her face, her work comes first. And we're expressing that by showing those two shots first, and then moving on to the shot where we actually see the character's face on the screen, and then directly on with this shot here. So that's why that's edited that way, and that's what that's supposed to convey to the audience. Then we go out and we see her world, we see her home, and in order of importance, what she does is more important than who she is, and it's also more important than where she lives, which is why the shots are edited in that order. So we have a wide shot here. Let me see here. Now, other than oops, let me see if I can bring this back over. It's on my other screen. I'm trying to drag it over. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. So here, the color correction is what we want to focus on here. First of all, are we getting everything that we need to get from our shadows? Okay, which would be her inner hair. I think that we need to see some detail in the hair. So this isn't bad from what I can tell because we know what her hair looks like. Not really much of a story to tell down by the chairs and underneath the table. Not really much going on anywhere else here. So I would just say that we want to avoid any distracting blacks once we know that we are getting the detail that we need from the shadowy parts of the frame. And now we look to the highlights. And the highlights, are we missing out on anything, or are we seeing everything that we need to see? I would say for the highlights, we would probably want to see some more blinds. It looks a little bit blown out here. So if we can pull a little bit of the highlights back, not by too much, you know what I mean? Just give it a light touch to try and get a little bit more details out of the blinds. We don't need to see the blinds in complete detail. We just kind of want to avoid ugly white. Ugly white is where we know there's supposed to be something there, but we can't see any detail because our camera doesn't have enough dynamic range. it's a camera that can't capture the full detail of shadows and darks at the same time. We either have to adjust for overexposure or adjust for underexposure. We want a little bit of both. So push the highlights a little bit if you can, and then I think the shadows are more or less okay. But if you can get a little bit more detailed, just make the frame look better, that would be great. Now, one challenge to both of those 2 points is I'm looking at the quality of the resolution in the shadows. Now you can see this pixelization going on here. I don't know if the original had that. It might just be from rendering something that's already rendered, and we'll talk about on the final render how to get the best quality and make sure that it's not noisy in the shadowy areas, and make sure that we are rendering in the best way possible. But do the best you can, and to the extent that you know how to clean up footage or clean up noise in these areas, because it looks it looks pixelated. Do what you can, but don't push it too much. Some of this is just the limitations of a HD DSLR camera, which is what we shot on. Okay, now same thing. We've got too much directionality going on. I can tell that the yellows are pushed. So I would say whatever you did on that yellow, bring it all the way back. Take it off. It seems like there's an entire layer of color grading going on here, and we shouldn't be in the grading yet. We should only be in color correction. So that's adjusting the shadows, it's adjusting the highlights, and making sure that we have the best midtones as well. I think our mids look pretty darn good. And then finally looking around at the noise and looking to see if we need to sharpen anything. I believe we can look at sharpening. I'm not an expert in sharpening. I more only recently found the difference that it can make on footage, and just keep in mind that when you sharpen something or use the unsharp mask effect in Adobe Premiere, it kind of pushes your contrast and makes something look more contrasty too. So just be ready to account for that or offset that. So if you sharpen, you may have to pull back on your contrast a little bit. All right, now I will give you props for the pink. As a concept, I've not explored or had not even considered the idea of pink as far as the color palette that was used. And we kind of can see what the color palette is. I think we did a good job on using the green and the earthly tones to kind of match who she is and what she is and how she is. She drinks tea. She's got very earthly person, very natural. So we go with the green, we go with the browns, and that's our color palette used in a very practical way on set, not just in post-production. But now, as far as post-production, we're not supposed to be grading. This is grading where we've gone ahead and taken the next step and said we're going to take a direction towards pink. We shouldn't be there yet, but I will say that it looks really interesting, something that I hadn't considered and I'm considering now that I've seen it. So very good, very good giving that a try. I don't think that it may not be right in the places that we're using it here. So like in the white highlights of these shots, it's definitely inconsistent with the white highlights of the other shots, but it could accentuate a lot of the shots that we have for her in her house. Like there might be a place to use pink that we hadn't considered. But right now, as of right now, or as of before you edited this, pink was not really a part of the color palette at all. But I'm finding it to be very interesting. So I'm very much considering where pink can be used. Here I don't have a lot to say. I just think that so this is very dark, and we got to look and see what we can do about this. It's just a failure on the part of the camera team that we weren't able to capture this part with more light. But they basically were exposing for the brightness of outside, and they knew once the door opened, they had to be ready. So they made a choice to expose for what was on this side of the door versus this side. And it would have been nice to see a walking all the way down the stairs from the and looking down from the top, but we don't have that. So let's go here. Okay, here. So the challenge is color correction. Let's not, whatever you did as far as a directionality with the color, take that away. Let's focus on the correcting. We have to see detail in her hair. The reason is because we saw detail in her hair in other shots. This shot won't match the other shots if we can't pull some detail into her hair. I don't think that the blacks are crushed beyond recovery. I think that maybe just pulling up the shadows a little bit will bring in the detail. Don't want it to look fake. Don't want to wreck the entire frame just to bring out the shadows. But I think focus on the shadows and bring those out to make it look a little bit better, because right now it's like a complete wash. It's like a complete loss. So overall, focus on the shadows, and then also evaluate between this shot and the other how bright one side is versus the other, and making sure that it looks good cutting from one to the other. All this right here is, there's nothing that we can do about this. This is basically just clipped. It's completely blown out black. We have to reckon with the fact that it's saying something to the audience or our viewers. It's saying that there's some dark side to her and she's hiding something, which is not exactly the message that we want to send. It's more him who has a dark side and he's hiding something in his story, because he's the one who actually comes out with a secret later. She's more an open book. He just appears to be. And this is really dark. So this doesn't even match the frame from before, because I think the frame from before was even brighter. So we got to get those to match, and I think they probably need to both be brightened. So this looks a little different. We got to take away the color grading. That's way too warm. Got to get that back to neutral. And we got to focus on making sure that we're not losing any detail that we could be keeping with our shadows here. And we can probably look to see if we can recover a little bit of these highlights a little bit, and making sure that we're not like the window is going to be a loss, but around the window might be able to correct that a little bit. But let's also keep an eye on noise in the shadows and in these areas too. So whatever we're trying to do here doesn't really trash everything all around. Okay, so this here does not match in the beginning, the opening wide shot, right? We've got to get that. We've got to get those two things to match. This is completely way too stylized. It's too heavy-handed. So get rid of the entire color grade here and focus on matching this shot with the opening. Not just with color, but with the levels. So if you saw more window in the other one, try to match it with the windows in this one. If you can't, just do the best you can. And try to we need the levels to match. So get our shadows on par with each other, get our midtones right about the same, get our highlights as close as you can, get those two shots to match, and don't worry about taking a color direction yet. Pretty much the same thing here. Now, I will acknowledge you're probably just experimenting, you know what I mean? Because, nobody's going to get it right all the way through the film on their first time. So you're just probably trying out different things. But I will say color correction at this point is going to always be wrong. We shouldn't be thinking about color grading. We shouldn't be thinking about color grading before we have all our color correction done and we have all our clips matching. So we got to make sure that all the clips have consistency. Okay, and we get the idea. So pretty much everything that I said in the beginning applies to all this stuff. And this is one of the other reasons that I thought that these the medium shots were the way to go as far as choosing a baseline to match everything else to. Where is it? Scrubbing is a little difficult here. Here we go. So here we go. These are the shots I was talking about. These shots match with when he walks away and she's back here. These are some of the best shots. They're really well lit. You can get all the detail out of her hair and everything. So if we can match to these as our baseline, go ahead and match to these. But if you're having too much difficulty and you need to match the other way, then go ahead and match the other way. But choose a baseline and make everything fit the baseline or follow from the baseline. Not much else going on there. Okay, so let's go to scene 2. This movie has 5 scenes, by the way. So 4 locations, 5 scenes. So here's our second location, our second scene here. Okay, so level-wise, we have a lot to work with. We don't have a lot to fix because we're getting details in her hair, in our shadows there. We're getting plenty of detail with, well, there is a lot of blowout with the highlights here. So see if we can pull some of those highlights in to the best you can. Probably won't be able to do a whole lot just because of the cameras that we're shooting on. Pull back a little bit on the highlights here. Let's make sure that we're not losing hair detail between here and our wider shot. So if it's noticeable, which it looks like it is on my screen here, see if you can pull in, see if you can bring those shadow levels up so that the shadows, so that her hair here matches the level of detail that we're getting there as best we can. The car is probably a loss. The car is definitely a loss, but we can fix it just a little bit. Okay, now we have another thing. So the way that this shoot unfolded was the sun was out for certain takes, and then some challenges kept us from shooting all of it in the same period, of time. So you're not going to be able to match as far as like create sunlight from in a shot that doesn't have sunlight. But what you're going to want to do is do the best you can with matching the overall level of brightness. So look at your mids, look at your highs, see if you can match the brightness. You got to get these clips as close as you can together. And I'm not sure to tell you to favor one or the other yet. I think I should let you try to match them first and just see what you feel like is an easier time. But in these shots, these are the better shots to me. The ones that have cloud coverage, the overcast, is creating a very soft light, which is what makes the camera do its best work. These kinds of cameras do really well with soft light. In other words, overcast skies give us the best image. So I prefer these images as opposed to like the really bright sunny ones because they blow everything out. But things are a lot more even when we have images like this. Now the challenge is I would try to go after the shadows in the hair. You want to bring up the shadows just enough so we can see the hair. And probably I would try to make it brighter so that it matches more closely the shots that have more sunlight in them. Once you get as many of the levels as you can to match, so the shadows, the highlights, and getting the mids right, then you may have to, then I would work towards matching the color temperature. So this one is cooler than this one because this one had sunlight, or these other ones have sunlight in them. That one's warmer. So I'm not sure if you should go warmer on this one or colder on the one that has sunlight. But give it a try and see what you feel like matches closely. Okay, so we do have a challenge here. You see this? There's no sunlight here. There's nothing you can do about that. So other than matching the brightness of everything else, like if you use her body as a reference, in the two shots. And then instead of trying to match sunlight, which isn't going to be there in one shot, try to match her body to from this shot to her body in the other shot would probably help the best. Don't worry too much about the sunlight. There's a lot of blown out whites here, so see if you can pull them back a little bit without making the rest look bad. Okay, let's go to scene 3. All right, so scene 3, got our establishing shot here, Cafe Hay. Okay, so we've got just spill of yellow. This yellow is, from my screen, way too strong, way too harsh. It's color grading. Get rid of it. We don't need the color grading right now. We need to be only focused on color correction, as I said. And I'm going right to the shadows and seeing if we can pull the detail out in her hair by brightening up the shadows a little bit, keeping an eye on other things that are just as dark, which are going to be brightened as well. Unless you do a localized brightening, which I haven't done much of myself in Premiere, so I'm not sure how comfortable you are with giving that a try. But if you can do that, sometimes it would serve you well to do it. Otherwise, just overall, probably going to benefit from brightening the shadows. So then also I would look and see, is there anything here that's too bright? Possibly this, and possibly the skin tones, which are going to be in the mids. It's kind of a little bit hard to tell just with the color grading on top of there. But let me see here. Let me see the original. The original is a lot more flat and less contrasty. Oh, this is different, right? See that? Let me see here. So in the one that you did, we went straight to establishing shot. Okay, I guess you just cut the tone thing. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'd rather be here than the stylized one. I'd rather work off of this. So yeah, definitely get rid of all the color grading there and do instead focus on the contrast, the lights, the highlights, the shadows, the midtones, making sure that they are where they need to be to get the best result. And the best result is defined by not losing detail. So one of the reasons we shoot it flat and less contrasty is so that we can see more detail in the darker areas and more in the lighter areas too. Here it's very flat. Yeah. So it's like when you do a correction or a grade that's so strong that you lose detail, I tend to think that's always going too far. Like if my grade gets rid of some of the detail that my correction got me, then my grade is probably too strong. I tend to be a lot more conservative and favor things that are a lot more conservative with color grading than going for a heavy style and going for a heavy grade. There's a point when a direction of color is too much, and I think that is marked by losing detail in highlights or in dark shadows, or losing, I'm not sure what else. Basically, losing detail is one of the main things that that tell you when you go too far. So look for loss of shadows and loss of details and highlights and, you know, things that don't look natural. Like I've never seen a yellow brick before. Bricks are red and gray. You know, it's kind of orange. Bricks are red and orange. Because when you mess that brick up, or when you apply a color grade to make a brick look a certain way, you're doing her skin tones no favors. So you got to be careful with that. Dang it. Her skin tone looks way off to me. All right, so now let's go here. This is one of the funnier parts of the movie. She's doing a conspiracy theory rant. They're both just kind of listening to her. Yeah, look at all this yellow. This isn't helping. All right, let's see here. So obviously this is way, you know, definitely got to get back to basics of color correction first, and then go for a grade. So let's get our highlights, mids, and lows to match as best we can with the previous shot, because this is a shot on a different lens than the other shots. So you're gonna have to work a little bit more to match it, but it's a good looking shot. Here's the original. So I make this bigger. Move my hand out of the way. Even flat, that's a good looking shot. You don't have to do much with some shots because they're properly balanced in terms of, you can see the highlights and have detail. You can see the lows and have detail. And then all you have to worry about is just, you know, is it sharp enough? Is the color temperature right? Does it match the other clips? So this doesn't match the other clips. That there, you saw there was a lot more darkness. Shadows were a lot more crushed. Come on. Let's try and find that shot where it just changed. Look at the detail in her hair here, and keep an eye on how it changes in a second. See that? Lost some detail. And that's not too bad. I was looking for the other shot. I couldn't find it. It was really short. I'm not going to spend too much time looking for it, but you see my point. So obviously, when you do more contrast, you're obviously going to have your dark areas get darker and crush more. Oh, here it is. I think it's coming up. So you saw she had detail in her hair. Now look at this. Watch this. It's going to cut to a shot. Here we go. Look at that. Look at how dark that is. That, I guess, that's not your fault, because that's just how, I guess I might have, I don't remember doing this. So somehow this shot ended up with a very aggressive correction or grade put on there. It looks like a LUT. It looks like there's a LUT sitting there. And when I rendered out the rough cut, I forgot to take the LUT off of this one. It should have come just like this, flat. So that I don't think you did. That's on me. That's on us. So just consistency is the name of the game on the color correction. Now let's go to the alley, scene 4. 4 of 5. Now here, you might be thinking, we're losing detail in the back here. No, not too much, not really. So this is good. I think that we have overcast, so we're getting soft light on our subjects, which is great, and we have separation from the background here. That's a staircase outside in an alleyway. So this is okay. That's really light. Now you got to reconcile this shot and say, all right, now does this look like it's in the same time and area as the other? Because the other one, the stairs were much darker. So it's pretty dark. So either you brighten this or darken the other thing. The darkness I'm liking because it's a little bit of it's appropriate for the subject matter that we're talking about. They're doing an illegal drug transaction with someone who's potentially dangerous. They don't know anything about them. So we got to make sure that this is very believable and connected. Can't really see what's directly behind them from here. So it looks like, either the lighting change or the location behind them change. So we got to bring this area a little bit closer. It might be just darkening this shot, going to the shadows and darkening, crushing our blacks a little more to make it feel more closely with the previous shot. Because that's very dark behind him. And we're going to take the overall darkness of this frame and consider it because it's sitting right next to the overall lightness of this frame. So we got to have some dark in this frame to connect this to the other frame so that we can show consistency. Right now, there's a large difference in terms of how bright one clip is to the next, and they're different angles of the same location. Don't worry about cutting it. That's on me. I'm just deciding between shots. Here's a differently lit shot. It's more contrasty, it's less flat. And this was a mistake because the person who shot this angle, either C or B, that's the camera, they did not go to a flat and they just used the kind of consumer scene settings, and it already is baking in the amount of contrast. So we have less latitude with these shots because it's partially already color corrected and edited. I should say color corrected. This mostly looks fine as far as levels, darkness, brightness. Nothing's blown out. It's a good day when nothing's blown out. Now the darks are pretty strong there, so you might want to see if you can bring in brighten the darks in there. I wouldn't be too happy. I wouldn't be angry if that stayed almost exactly the way that it is. It's just that has to match this now. Where this is less contrasty, obviously. And those are brighter and more contrasty. So we got to get these two types of shots or clips to match. Again, the consistency of the darkness in the other one has to match this one once you figure out where that needs to be. Be nice to accentuate the red a little bit. Oops. You know what? I'm not even looking at yours. I'm looking at the other one. Sorry. Forgot to switch it back. But same thing applies. Oops. What? No. No. Decline. What the hell? Do this again. Sorry. Where is my open with? Here we go. All right, sorry, I didn't need to go on much longer with this because you're getting the idea. But I appreciate you listening to the whole thing. Okay, so here's what you actually edited. Is this what you did? No, it's not. Sorry, let me go in your folder. The overall theme I'm harping on is we need to focus on the color correction first. I'm not saying we're not going to do a stylized color grade direction. What I'm saying is we need to focus in order on the correction first. So let's get our clips to match in terms of brightness, in terms of the color, in terms of the tone, in terms of sharpness, and let's make these things match first. Okay, so here's the other thing about pink, because I saw it applied to bricks, and I said, that's really interesting. So remember the pink that we first saw at the house, which I said was an interesting idea, and I'm glad you showed that. I think that if we use pink, here's another place where it can show up as interesting. The bricks all the way around the alley. A little bit of the highlights there. But I think that if pink is interesting and it looks to fit in this kind of environment here. So don't worry about pink as far as the color correction right now. Get rid of pink because we're in color correction. But the next step, the second step, when we get to color grading, once all these clips match, then we'll look at which colors should we elevate above other colors. Like if you notice the yellow and greenish light behind here, kind of matching other yellow and green elements in this thing. This is very, very dark. So one thing I noticed is that these shots here that you've done, a lot less detail. The hair in the original is easily separated from the background. So you've done whatever you did as far as color grading has crushed the blacks in the foreground and the background so that it's hard to distinguish them both. So I think that more light or more brightness is better than less in this shot because it's just so powerful, and we're not gaining anything by darkening it back here. And I feel like this is darkened enough to kind of answer the thing that I was saying before about making sure it matches the darker shot, because the alley shot from two different ways. Here we go. What am I doing? What happened to the... It's 1.0. Yeah. Making sure I'm not confusing myself here. I think I confused myself a little bit. Yeah, let me pull back. Here we go. It's not bad red. I think the reds, if you want to experiment it while you're doing the color correction, is normally what you do in the grading, is you might want to darken those reds if you can. So you go and isolate those reds that are supposed to be the blood, because blood appears to be darker, or appears to be very dark. I like the red, and it's kind of dark, so let's see if we can darken it a little bit more. A little bit more, see if that helps. And that's the original. Let me see what you did. Okay, so we have so much yellow spilling in here. I'm not sure that we can appreciate the color, the true color of the red blood. It's way too much yellow here. So we got to get rid of that color grading, get back and focus on our color correction, get back to making sure that we have enough detail here in the dark area. We definitely want more contrast. So not like, so it doesn't need to, so like we don't want the original, because the original is very flat and not contrasty. It's kind of gray and muddy. We don't want that. What we do want is more contrast with consistency in the levels. All right, let's get back here. The pink is interesting, but get rid of the pink for now. That we're going to look at pink when we get to color grading, the second step. But the first step, making sure all these clips match, is what's important right now. And these we can see. I feel like if it looks like we should be able to see her hair because it's daylight and she's not standing in the shadow of anything, then our shadows are a little too dark on her hair. Shadows can be a little bit brighter. That'll probably bring up his jeans a little bit, which would be a good thing. All right, so now we're in the last scene of the movie. They go back home. They go to her apartment. All right, look how aggressive. So this isn't you, because the original was very. Let's see here. This is the original. All right, so they come back home. The reason that the color is already like this is we covered the windows to make it look like it was later in the day. We basically shot scene 1 and 5 on the same day. It was in the morning, and it was very bright during the first part. So what we did to make it look like it was the later afternoon, to show the passage of time, is we put these giant, we made gels for the windows, and that cast a different lighting and warmer color temperature, just to make it look more afternoony or late evening. And I think we did a pretty good job of that. So definitely focusing just on the color correction will help us see what we just did. This is overpowering. There was already yellow, so we don't want to have more yellow spilled on there. And that's a different color than this. This looks more orange, and the other one looked more yellow. Yellow and orange. So we need to find the right balance. So the right answer is whatever looks the most like late afternoon, early evening, dying daylight. That's what you want to do. This is way too red, way too warm. Let's see the original. That's closer to where it should be in the original, but not where it's closer to where it should be, but that's not where it should be. We want more realistic skin tone for her, and then his shot, he looks all yellow too, and that's just on the original. So we got to counteract that yellow. Here is very yellow too. It's really not too offensive because it's supposed to be late in the day and that spills onto everything. But if you can bring back a little bit of normalcy with maybe throwing in some blues to counteract the warm yellow or orange color tone, that might look good and be good. Sorry, it does a little bit here. Let's see. Yeah, so too strong. Pull it back. Get rid of all the color grading here. Look, it's so strong that I can't see his chin. Like the defining lines are gone. is it? See his chin? I should be able to see his chin. Her face, she's almost wearing like a ton of makeup, and she's not. This is just too strong color. Way too strong. Her blacks here, the blacks here are way too dark. They're crushed. There's no detail. It's just a black hole. So you have to focus on the blacks and the shadows a lot in these two. You got to bring those up. And it is going to pull up some of your other colors, but you got to bring those up so that we can see some detail. Don't worry too much about her in the back for those back shots there, because she's in the background blurred out. A loss of detail for her is not the same as a loss of detail for somebody who your camera is focused on in the foreground and who is supposed to be calling attention to themselves. Here I can't see his eyes. The edges of his eyes are missing because the color grading is so strong. That's way too strong. We got to pull that back and be conservative. I think that good color grading for this film is going to almost go unnoticed. You're only basically going to be accentuating certain colors at certain times to make this be the best it can be. Like, for example, in the color palette in the last scene, the bad guys have the same color palette. It's black and red. Look at the bad guys. They're all wearing black and red. She's got a red, whatever that kind of hat is. Plus, she's got her outfit I really liked. She doesn't just have the red hat. She's got the red suspenders too. And this is supposed to contrast a little bit with the green earthly tones that we had set up in the beginning of the film. Here, this is way too strong. We want to see some detail in his suit if we can. We also want to see a little detail in her suit if we can. She looks to be wearing all black from this angle, but she also has a piece of red on her too. If you look closely at her right hand here, she's got a red bangle, and she's carrying a red bag. So that's the theme for the bad guys, black and red. Look at how badly this color is washing out here. So we got to definitely pull that way back, get rid of the color grading. And let's go focus on our shadows, blacks, whites, highlights, midtones. Focus on our blur versus sharpness and our contrast. Let's get them all matching, and then let's get them to the right level to where the best parts of what we're trying to show are at their best level and everything else follows behind. If I have differing points of a frame and I want to apply color, but one thing is going to affect the other, and so therefore I have to choose what's most important to me. Remember, the most important things are always going to be, see how she is the most important character in this shot? So whatever formula works best for her is the one that's going to work best for everything else. Because we're going to choose, if we have to choose, it's going to be her. She's the most important thing. And then for his frame or for her frame, if we're going to choose, it has to be him in this frame because he's the most important thing. So if you're wondering what to favor the subject of a shot. Favor that. This is why we needed to see the detail in her suit, because we end up with a close-up where we can see detail. So we kind of want to be able to see the detail on the wider shots too, if we can. I always thought one of the more clever parts of this story, of this film, is the part where her character's introduction. That's Nadia Bell's character. her introduction is simply they hear her before they see her, right? So right now they think there's two people in their house, or in Johanna's house. But there's three, and this is where she makes her entrance. You hear crunching, and then you hear things dropping on the floor, and it's her in their kitchen eating Johanna's cashew nuts and dropping the shells on the floor. She's been dropping them the entire time she's been there. That's why the floor is all littered with them. But you hear that, you see her, and there she is. She's just dropping them on the floor. It's meant to convey, I have all the power, you don't. I own this place. This is my place right now, not yours. It says all those things. Okay, so that's all for the color correction right now. Is focus only on color correction. And don't worry about stylistically grading it yet. I'm not saying that there isn't going to be any stylistic grade. I'm only saying that the color correction is to be taken at the highest priority right now, and we got to do that correctly first. And we got to make sure all of our clips are consistently matching each other first, and then we will look at a color grade. The film should look perfect, or should look like it's ready to go with just a color correction, with just all the frames matching each other, finding the best level, finding the best contrast. That should be good enough for a screen. The color grading is just a bonus. The bonus of just making the film have even more meaning. You know what I mean? Just accentuating the greens just because it promotes the theme. It shouldn't be, the film should not be dependent on color grading. It should be enhanced by color grading. So let's focus on the color correction first, because the film is dependent on color correction. So I want the correction to be at a really good level first, and then let's consider some very moderate, very conservative color grading, because I don't think this film needs a heavy stylistic grade or direction. But I think that we have to be as best as we can on color correction. That's pretty much all I have to say. I want to thank you so much for everyone listening. Thank you especially to Patrick for the first round of corrections on this. If you have any questions, whether you're Patrick or anyone just watching this, let me know. Reach out to me. You can get me on Discord, either direct message me or just go into the channel, and you can at either me. You can at me or at TJ, or I'm a producer, so you can at producer team. I'm the executive producer, actually, so I get the notification whether you put producer team or executive producer. I don't think I get the associate. That's the other producers. Production assistant, I don't get that either. So just at me or at my executive producer or at producer team, and it'll get back to me. But thanks, and guys, remember to let me know if you have an idea for if the editing team needs another channel for any other purpose. It has to be a real purpose. It doesn't. We don't want to add more, a bunch of channels to the side of the menu here just for no reason. So if there's a real purpose and it would really be useful, let me know and I can get that added for you guys. So other than that, thanks so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. This weekend we have a actual production meeting. The editing team wasn't called out explicitly to show up. It's on Saturday from 1:15 to 2:45 at Seminole Heights Branch Library in room 105 on the first floor. So you don't have to show up to that one. We're going to mostly be talking about which projects we want to focus on in the future and what kind of projects we should be doing right now. And we'll also be going over the progress that we've been making on our current projects. So it's a production meeting. The producer team will be there. We're talking to the writing team there too. And who else was there? You just go to the events and it will tell you producer, story team, media team, because they do the promotion and the publication and sharing it online and stuff. So all of us will be there kind of discussing the best way forward for TFN. But you can come as well. We may actually have questions about editing and stuff. But thanks so much, everyone. Have a great week and shoot me a message. Only Discord, folks. Don't try to message me on Facebook. Don't try to email. It's only Discord. So thanks so much, guys.